Hello, and welcome to the StepStories podcast. I'm your host, Robin Breuner, and today I have a guest here named Julia Nurse. And Julia has had a soft spot in my heart ever since I met her, all the way back when she was in middle school. Um, I've been featuring my daughter, Natalie, on here a lot, and that is how I know Julia. She's an old friend of hers, and I'm so glad you're here today. Hi.
Hi, I know. Thank you for having me. I'm so
Uh,
excited.
um, And I had a soft spot for Julia because early on after meeting her, somehow I found out that her mother, unfortunately, died of breast cancer when she was only 9, which is so similar to what happened to me since mine died of breast cancer around the same age. So I
Perfect.
felt very connected to her and just have always been interested in you, not her, you. I'm talking to you, but I'm talking to my guest too. And but before we go on, I just also wanted to acknowledge all the people out there struggling with the crazy snowstorm that hit most of the country. I especially tuned in, even though I'm in California and we're not getting hit by it. But I was just back from Florida last night visiting family, and all the flights were canceled. The Northeast, everybody trying to get back to the Northeast. And I know it's just been really tough on people. So anyway, I hope you're all hanging in there and um, getting through this and get your power back on. But anyway, so yeah, Julia and I definitely have very different stories. But when you lose your mom when you're 9 or 10, it's you're always connected in some way. So,
Yeah.
and one of the things I wanted to do is usually I start my interviews by talking a little more about what my guests are doing now and then go back to their stories. But in Julia's case, she's doing something really interesting now, and I'd love to get her perspective on how your life history has affected that and how you came to that. So, does that sound okay with you?
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right. Well, let's talk about you. Let's talk about your background. Where were you born?
I was born in Portland, Oregon, actually. I'm the only one of my family who was born there. I don't know, I think I've told you, but my family has moved around a lot. My family moved around a lot before I was born and after I was born. So we lived in Oregon and then California for a bit. We moved to Massachusetts and then Missouri and then to Maine, where Maine is where I usually say that I'm from. It was the majority of my childhood, kind of like the most like formative years, I would say. And my mom is buried there. So that's where I like to call home. But yeah, then my family moved to California where I spent most of my adult years.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so, one of the very interesting things about Julia is that she's got a few brothers and sisters. How many do
Yeah.
you
A
have?
couple. I have 11 older brothers and sisters, 9 girls and 3 boys total.
So you're the youngest of 12.
Yeah. Number
Yeah,
number 12, the baby.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember your much about your mother?
Yeah, I do. So when I was 4 years old, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, which I don't remember obviously. Or I guess not obviously, but I was pretty young and then she went into remission. So I have a lot of memories of her being like healthy and you know, playing with her, going in like gardening with her and spending time with her since I was the youngest. And I had a couple years before, I went to school where I was at home alone with her and I would go to church with her every day and she would like make me
So,
snacks. And so we got a lot of really precious like one-on-one time for those couple years, which I really appreciate because not all my siblings got that. Um, and then she came out of remission and got sick, probably when I was like 7. And
hmm.
she started doing cancer treatments again. And that's when we moved from Missouri to Maine and to be closer to family. And that's when she started to get more sick in a way that was very noticeable. And she was able to do like less and less. Yeah.
What are some things you remember about her? I mean, it sounds like you remember she liked to garden and go to church, but anything else that stands out that you like to sort of look back on when you think of her?
Yeah, I have lots of really sweet memories. A lot of like the gardening, I think, is a big one for me and my sisters. I remember she just like loved that. And we'd have like big gardening days and she would let me like pick out some of the flowers we were going to plant. And I always like think of her with like lavender and like she loved the smell of lavender, would always put on those like pots on the stove where you like kind of boil scents. And she was just really great at like creating kind of like those little special moments. Like Christmases were always so sweet, and she was very like a devout Catholic. So the holidays were really big, like Easter and Christmas. Like she really loved to celebrate that and kind of have us all talk about like the background and what the meaning of it was for her. Um, and yeah, I think this is jumping ahead a tiny bit to where I'm at now, but that definitely has informed, like, um, how I like to interact with, like, the natural world, and I love flowers, and I, like it always makes me think of her, like, magnolias are blooming right now in San Francisco and the cherry blossoms, and so, like, I love to just, like, go out and smell the flowers, and it makes me feel really, like, connected to her. But yeah, she was such a like, an angel and such a sweet woman, and everyone who knew her always tells me that and just, like, how she was like a saint, like, she was just, like, such a lovely person. Um, yeah, I'm kind of rambling.
No, please ramble. In fact,
Yeah.
for me especially, having a guest like you, I it just I love letting you talk about your mom because I don't
Yeah.
know how often you get to do it, but
Yeah.
I feel like those of us who lost our moms a long time ago don't really get to do that very much. So, I mean, you have a lot of
Yeah.
brothers and sisters. So, do you guys ever talk about her?
We do,
Yeah.
and I'm really grateful to my older siblings because, we're all different ages when she passed, and some of my siblings were in their, like, mid to late 20s when she passed away, so
Mm.
they had a much different or I guess more of a range of their, like, relationship with her, they went into adulthood knowing her. And I'm really grateful that, especially my oldest brother, Jeremy, when my mom was really sick, he kind of had the foresight and the forethought to record videos of my mom speaking about all of
Oh,
us. And it gives me like chills when I think about it because it's just really beautiful. I know not everyone gets that. Like speaking to each of us directly and just speaking about different life experiences she had, like speaking about her faith. And so we all have those now, like, on a drive that we can watch. It's really emotional. I don't watch them often, but it's really nice knowing that they're there and, they kind of tried to preserve different things about her. Like,
mhm.
they made a CD of music that she loved and things like that, and so we all love to talk about her, and my sister Sarah, spoke with her when before she died and asked her, like, "How can we connect with you once you've passed?" And my mom said, "Light a candle and, like, I'll be with you." So we all
Oh,
have our, like, special mom candles that we can light, and, yeah, just, like, I was 9 years old, so, like, I would not have been able to have those conversations or do those things with her, so I'm really grateful for my siblings for, like, thinking about that stuff, and we all love to kind of, like, try to celebrate her. It can be painful for sure, and we all struggle with it, but I think we try to, like, keep her in each other's memories in that way.
I think that's amazing. And I think that, I'm studying right now to become a grief coach, actually just on the
Oh,
side. And
wow.
it's something I've wanted to do. And I thought it would be nice to have it as well, to have that knowledge on the podcast, because
Yeah.
obviously a lot of people that come into step families, blended families, are coming from something, whether it's a divorce or a parent passing. And so there's inevitably been some grief in most of the cases. So I think it's important to understand that. But one of the things that we talked about, or I talk about in the course, is doing things, rituals, holidays, like you're talking about gardening, and
Yeah.
either continuing to do them yourself or just wanting to remember those things and keep them going to keep that person alive. And
Yeah.
that sounds like you're doing exactly that, even though it's been a
Yeah.
long time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a really big part of my journey healing from this loss and dealing with the grief has been figuring out how I connect with, like, I mean, even just like the mother energy, if that's something that you like to think about, or just connecting with my mom. Cause for a long time, and I'm sure people who've lost a parent can relate, like, it felt like this really big, like, gaping hole. And like in my heart and in my life, that just felt really like empty and painful. And I just like so badly wanted like that feeling of a mother's love, and that was so
Mm.
hard. And I feel like I was, like, really, like, looking for it outwards, and I had just had some experiences, like, traveling and just meeting people where I started to kind of realize that my mom is, like, so much bigger than a human body could contain, and she is everywhere, and, like, she is, like, with me, and I can, like, feel her love, like, in the sun, or, like, drinking a really good cup of tea, or, like, in a stranger I meet, like, having a really nice interaction, or, and, like, the blooming flowers, and I can, like, really feel her and, like, connect with her in that way. And, she was such a spiritual person, and, like, I really feel like I've inherited that from her, so I do
Mhm.
have these experiences where I just feel her so strongly, and
Hmm.
I almost feel, like, closer with her now at times than I feel like I did when she was, like, alive and here. And that's just been, like, a really, really beautiful thing that I just can, like, feel that love in that way, and it's just like, yes, obviously she can transcend, like, a human body, like, she was so big, she had so much love, like, it doesn't just go away when her physical body, like, passes.
That's absolutely right. I mean, that's what I would think most people would hope for in their lives, that
Yeah,
when they're gone, that they did enough on this earth and to the people around them, to be remembered for those things. So, and it's also
yeah.
healing on the other side for all of you. And what was her name, by the way?
Her name is Jean, yeah.
Oh,
Her
Jean, you
maiden
said
name is
that.
Jean, yeah, her maiden name is Donovan, but, yeah, Nurse is our last name for my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are there any of your sisters, or I suppose brothers, that remind you more than the other of her? Or is there somebody who just looks so much like her? Both my sister and I look so much like my mother. It's crazy. And
Mm.
everybody's always so stunned by that. But we both love that. But is there anybody, or is she just spread out a mix among all of you?
I think, my sister Caroline has the most of a resemblance to her, especially in the last, like, 10 years, I would say. My dad is always there'll be, like, pictures, like, that's sent to the family chat, and my dad is like, "Wow, you look just like Jean, you look just like your mom." So I think my sister Caroline for sure. I don't know, I feel like all my sisters have such, like, a nurturing, loving, like, motherly energy in a way, so there's been so many times, like, with all of my sisters that I have, like, really felt like it's like our mom is, like, in all of us, and it just, like, feel that really nurturing, loving energy.
That's so great. And
Yeah.
you're very fortunate to have had all those older sisters. I mean, for you to all have each other. That
Yeah.
is that's really fortunate. I'm at the other end because I was the oldest, and so
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody above me within the family, and we've talked about it, my sister and I, because I think in a lot of ways, sort of mentally, I suppose she fared better than I did. I can't
Yeah.
say it's because she had an older sister, but I've read and heard that maybe that helped a bit.
It does, I think. I'm sure you were, like, such a rock for her.
I
I don't
don't
know
know.
what I would have done without my older sisters. I think it goes both ways. As you get older, it definitely starts to go both ways more, but when I was young, it's like it was so huge for me.
So I want to go back to talking about your dad a little bit.
Mm.
What How was your dad dealing with all this when your mother was sick and he had 12 kids? I know you said he changed jobs a bit. What was going on with him during this time? How was he handling things?
Yeah, I think when I was still pretty young, when my mom was, like, in her good place starting to get worse, I just remember my dad being gone a lot, like, working. Like, he would come home from work, but it just, like my mom was home. So I just feel like he was, like, working a lot and gone, and then as things started to progress and after we moved to Maine, I don't know if he would, like, explicitly talk about it, but, you can, like, feel, like, the stress around, like, the situation, and I think especially around money, as cancer treatments are expensive and if it's going on for a long time, and also with just having so many children, that's a lot of, like, mouths to feed and people to take care of, and
Sure.
so there's definitely a lot of stress around money, and, I remember, like, my older siblings spearheading, like, local fundraisers, and I made an announcement at my school, like, asking people if they'd want to, like, donate, and we were, like, on our local news channel. They came in and did, like, a little segment on us, and yeah, I think that stress was, I'm sure, a lot for him,
Hmm.
and yeah, like losing his, life partner that he had since he was like 22 years old. I think it was a lot, probably too much for him to like really be able to handle.
That's definitely a lot to handle. I mean, what's the
Yeah.
age range? So they were 22 and they got married? Were they the same age?
No, my mom was 5 years younger than him. So I think they got married when my mom was 18.
Okay.
Yeah,
And how old was she when she had your first sibling?
18. She got pregnant and then they got married.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, and they were Catholic, right? You said?
My mom's family was very Catholic, and I think my
Yeah.
dad just kinda went along with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was your first sibling a boy or girl?
Boy.
A boy.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the age difference between you and him?
Oh gosh. We're about, like, 22 years apart, I think, around there. I'm 29, almost 30, and he's, in his, like, mid to late 50s. I'm getting worse and worse at remembering everyone's ages.
That's that's a lot to remember. Well,
Yeah.
when your mom did pass, how were things handled? I'm curious also just for myself. Did you all attend her
Yeah.
funeral? Did you have extended family that helped, grandparents, aunts and uncles? What happened during that time?
Yeah, my mom came home from the hospital when she was I think they told us there was, like, weeks left. So she was, at home with us, and I think she had stopped, like, any treatments at that point, and all my siblings were home as well. So she passed in the night, and we were all there. We all, like, woke up, and, it's kind of a funny memory for me. It's, like, so visceral. I just remember, like, waking up and just felt something really intense in my body and just started crying, and I didn't
Mm.
really, like, know what was happening, and I just, like, couldn't stop crying, and my older sister, Jean Margaret, like, got me and carried me up to my mom's room upstairs, and we all just kind of, like, sat around her, as she was, like, in the bed, after she passed, so it's definitely, like, a very intense moment, but I think it was kind of beautiful we were all there together, yeah, then we had her funeral, and yeah, I think my older siblings mostly orchestrated everything, honestly. I
Mhm.
know we had extended family come, I don't really remember too much of that, but I know we all sang, like, Amazing Grace at her funeral and, yeah, just, like, spent that time together. That's kinda what I remember from
Mm.
that time. Yeah.
Well, I guess I was going to ask you after she passed, who took care of you? I mean, how did your dad cope with having 12 kids and no mom there? And I guess I'm thinking you have these older siblings who were so much older. Did they pitch in or did they go back to their lives? Who was home still when your mom passed?
My sister Therese, took a break from college for several months and lived at home with us, so yeah, so she was the one that was around. I'm sure other siblings were there in and out, but I think most of them went back to their lives, and Therese was the one who, lived with us and kind of helped out more in that way. I can't remember how long she stayed, but she always like talks about, there's like emails she would send to the older siblings that I've read. I haven't read them in a while, like sending updates. And she would always say how I was just like kind of hanging around her legs. This is like
Mm.
always wanting to like be around her. So just, yeah, really appreciative that she was there. I think when she went back to school, it was kind of like whoever was the oldest at home really had to like step up. And I think at first it was my sister Elizabeth, and she had to do like a lot of the grocery shopping. She got us all ready for school, made us breakfast, made us lunches, and like drove us all to school and pick us up. So she definitely took on like a big load and responsibility during that time. And like I remember my sister Catherine, who was the one who had to do that next, talking about like being in class in high school and like freaking out because she forgot to take the chicken out of the freezer. It's just because she needed to like make dinner for all of us. So yeah, they
And
definitely
how old was
mm.
she at that time?
She was probably like a junior, senior in high school.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
So who was home at that time? Which of your brothers and sisters?
Um It was me, Rosemary, David, Catherine, and Elizabeth. But Elizabeth went to college, I think like a year after my mom passed.
So you had 4 kids home still
Yeah. Hmm.
of the 12? Okay.
Yeah.
And so what happened after that? After your mom passed and maybe you settled in a little bit, did you move again?
We stayed in our home in Maine for a little while. I was in third grade and we stayed there until I was like in fifth grade.
Mhm.
So 3 years, I guess. Afterwards is kind of a blur. I remember, um, yeah, not a lot of like specifics, but my dad did start like dating, um, maybe like 6 months. I mean, at least it's of people he introduced us to, after that. So I think a lot of that time in the subsequent years is a lot of memories of, like meeting, who he was dating and like spending time with them. And, um, I, I think, yeah, when we talked the other day, I mentioned he had like a few, girlfriends who one had, two children, and we spent like a lot of time with them. And like, I think I was like played on the same soccer team as like the girl somehow, like on the same travel soccer team, and, would have sleepovers at their house. And it wasn't like a bad experience. I think it was just, it was like a little weird, as that is when you're a kid, but they had like horses, and, I remember there being like fun parts of that as well. Um, I think where it gets like a little bit hard, and just like I think of the toll I think it took on me and my siblings was just like how many there were. And um I think there wasn't a lot of like consistency and stability during that time in the aftermath of my mom passing, like in that way, but also like financially. And my dad, I kind of being heartbroken and just like broken in general, as it, makes sense that he was. So there's like a lot of like financial struggle. And there was like a time where he got a job in England and was like would spend like long periods of time over there, which as an adult it's kind of a strange thing to think about, is that like us kids were at home alone and my older sister Liz was like taking care of us, and she was in high school.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but like it just felt very like normal at the time. Like I was like, this is just how it is. um
But
and
I'm curious, so for you, maybe because you were 9, 10 at that point,
yeah.
maybe you were kind of going along and you were shielded a little bit by your older siblings, but what was going on with your older siblings? Did anybody rebel against this? I'm thinking about him dating so quickly after mom died or being gone to England and leaving you guys. Do you remember any of that, or did everybody sort of just keep that from you and try to just keep taking care of you younger guys?
I'm not sure. I'm sure there were conversations being had that I wasn't a part of. I do think maybe my older siblings didn't know quite like the extent of what was going on at home. And, I think they were all like in their grieving process, but this definitely makes me want to like ask them like what their thoughts were of this all happening. Cause they would come home, still for holidays. Not every single one. So I'm sure they kind of knew what was going on. But yeah, it's a great question. I'm not like 100% sure. I think I definitely was shielded in some ways. I think it also is kind of like, especially me being the youngest, I think in general in my life before that, it was kind of like I had to go with the flow. Like, just it's just easier for everyone if we're all kind of, um, I don't know. I think it like maybe is maybe a little bit of a people pleaser, but it's just like, it's just kind of how it goes when you're in a big group. And then I think that kind of just extended into that time where I just like didn't really know any different. And it was like, this is just like how it is. And we're just kind of getting through it. And me and my sister Rosemary like are very bonded from that time. And, I think really took care of each other. And I think she really like honestly took care of me. Um, and she would like advocate for us, at different points in our lives, like growing up, when we were in high school too, where she was like, this isn't okay. Like something needs to change. Where like, I don't know if I would have said that.
She's what, like 2 years older than you
Yeah,
or
just under
something?
2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a lot going on. And like there was a woman that he's dated that, this is different from the other woman I was talking about, but she also had 2 kids and their relationship progressed very seriously. And we ended up like moving in with them. Um,
So I'm just going to tell you for 1 second. So
yeah,
you moved in with them. At that point, how many kids moved in your family into their family? How many siblings of yours did that?
4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 4 of you moved in with 2 of her kids.
Yeah.
Okay. Keep going. That's fine.
Yeah. um, Yeah, it was like a lot of back and forth. It's like it's all such a complicated story. I'm trying to like think
Yeah.
of how to tell it briefly, but yeah, we like moved in for a summer. They were gonna get married, and then it like didn't work, so we like left, and then we like ended up moving back in with them. So it was like a little bit of like a back and forth for a little while there.
Did your dad keep your house? So,
We did have it, which I'm like not even. I'm glad that he kept it because we did go back and forth.
mhm.
And then eventually, the last time that they broke up, he got a job in California, and that's how we moved to California when I was in 8th grade.
Did she feel like maybe a new mom for you? Did you get close to her?
I think I don't know. I don't think I got to the point where I felt like she was like a mother figure. I think in a
Mhm.
way, like there was comfort there because like they were kind of well off. So it felt like there was like a sense of like being provided for that I think was like kind of comforting. And like I remember we like went on this like we went to like Disney World with them, and like we kind of like did these like fun things that like we hadn't done. So I think like that was like that felt good in that way. um I don't know if we kind of like clashed a little bit. Like we just were so different from them, like me and my siblings from her kids. So like sometimes we would kind of like clash with them a little bit. But she like cooked really good food. And yeah, I don't know. I think it was like it probably did provide like a little bit of stability during that time. Um in a way that I'm sure that I felt, but I don't know if I like really connected with her like emotionally, I guess.
Must have been interesting for her kids to have 4 new kids move in and then move out and move back in, and it must have been
Yeah.
confusing for all of you trying to adjust to that because that's hard enough just as, one time doing it and trying to blend and
Nope,
do.
totally. Yeah, and I think I'm
Yeah.
sure we were kind of like we kind of overtook things in a way, where like I feel like that's how my siblings and we all are. We're like kind of like we're so close, so we can kind of like take over spaces. So yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah, that I'm just thinking about it. It must have been strange for the 2. Were they girls or boys or?
There's an older brother and a younger sister, and
Yeah.
me and the younger sister shared a room.
Okay. and then their mom is potentially going to marry a guy with 12 kids. Like, must have
Yeah.
been
Crazy.
very interesting on the other side of things. But okay, so when they broke up and you moved, do you remember how you felt about it and having to move and leave your did you feel emotional leaving sort of the place behind where your mother had lived and that
Yeah,
home?
definitely. I mean, like I said, we had moved a lot, and so I think I had gotten kind of used to moving at that point, and but I definitely felt sad because yeah, that's like where my mom was and where she's buried, and I had like very close friends um in that town in Reedfield where I live. So it definitely was sad, but I think it also felt exciting to like move to California. Like it felt very like there was like an aspect of it that did feel like exciting and kind of like an adventure. So it was like, yeah, a little bit of both, I suppose.
And did you once you got here, didn't he get in another relationship here?
Yeah. So yes, I think my dad was just really struggling financially. And that job didn't really work out. So we were living in Napa and he started dating like this woman and like we ended up getting like evicted from our place in Napa and w- we moved and it was like three of us children at that point and we moved in with my aunt and uncle and my dad moved in with his girlfriend and she lived in like the Kent Redwood like zip code, I guess, or like district. And so he used like her address for us to like go to those schools. So
That
that's where
just
I
to
met.
clarify for people listening, that's and that's what you meant, Natalie, but that's in Marin County and it's a public school district there. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So that was kind of like his last like girlfriend where I was like still like under 18. But yeah, we eventually like ended up moving in with her. Me and my sister Rosemary, my brother David stayed at my aunt and uncle's house, and um, I Rosemary like finished high school there, and then they broke up, and so for my senior year, we were in Novato, but still using her address, I think, so I could stay at Redwood.
So it's just you and your dad then by then?
Hmm. Yeah, for my last year.
Did you get close to that girlfriend? I mean, you were living with her and
Yeah, I think sort of like a similar thing. Like sometimes I feel like it's like I feel it's funny because I'm like, should I have gotten closer with her? But I think at that point I was getting older and I didn't really take it very seriously, because there had just been like so many throughout the years. So it's just like, it doesn't feel as like important or special, I think, at that point. But I mean, I think she tried really hard and she's a therapist. So she probably had the most tools of any of them to try to deal with us and with the situation. And she, was a great cook and would make us like nice treats and like scones for school. And me and my sister Rosemary both feel like we really learned a lot about cooking from her. And like, I still make things that she made for us and that she like taught us how to make. Um, and yeah, I think it was hard because like I said, I was like becoming a teenager and was wanting more independence. And I think for so long, we were just like staying at my aunt and uncle's house where like I wasn't really being supervised that closely. Not that I was like doing anything, but just like wasn't really living under a parent in a typical
mhm.
way. And then when we were living with her, I think she was really influencing my dad to like parent us and probably like maybe a more normal way, but in a way that just like felt very like strict and there's a lot more like rules and I couldn't I'd have to like come home from being at a friend's house like for dinner, or things like that where it just like before that hadn't really been a thing. So I just felt really like frustrated by it. And she kind of was like she was like helping him to parent. So I think just like in that way of like teenage rebellion and all this like history, I just sort of like, I don't know, it was hard for me to like respect her, I think. And I was just like feeling frustrated with my dad at that point, I think as well.
Were you were you mature enough, or where you are now? I mean, looking back on it, do you wish he would have handled things differently? Or I'm sure I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm guessing you probably do, but I'm wondering how you feel about it all looking back. And is he now in a relationship, or where are you with him now?
Yeah. I guess to answer like the first part of your question, um I mean, there was like a lot of like resentment towards him because he couldn't really take care of us very well during that time. And I think now, as I've gotten older, I kind of like realize more like the intensity of raising so many children. Obviously it was like their choice to do so, but I'm like glad that I'm here. But like it
I am too.
definitely like, it was a big burden, it was a really big burden. And I definitely felt like I was a burden at times. And like, I knew that my dad was like very ready for me to go to college, but also
Oh,
he had been a dad for like with a kid at home for like 40 something years.
oh
So
my
I don't
gosh.
like totally blame him, but it's just kind of like, okay, like I'm on my own now. And I think it's when I was in college, like I had a hard time with my relationship with him, like, and I resented him a lot. And I really wanted more help. I wanted someone who could like help me in a more focused way or support me. I'm so grateful for my siblings, but like they had their own lives and partners and starting to have kids. And there was no one who was like, oh, you have trouble with financial aid. Like, let's figure this out together. My dad would just get really stressed out about money and really overwhelmed. So like I didn't really feel like I could get help from him. So that was really hard time. And we've had a lot of like space and distance since then. And he's retired now. He's living in Thailand and his cost of living is very low. He's able to live on his like social security. And I think since we're all like adults now, we all try to contribute to like supporting him, like if he needs to come back and like get his meds or like doctor's visits. And he's honestly the most like relaxed I've ever like known him to be. And so I'm really happy for him. It's like really interesting seeing who he is without like this intense weight and stress and anxiety that I've known him to have for like most of my life. Where he's, like playing pickleball and like has lost weight and is just like more positive in general. I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. And sorry, Luna, come here. Luna's doing she hears you. She knows you. Um, did he ever get remarried?
No, no. The closest he came was like being engaged, and the wedding was called off like the day before.
Mm.
So very close, but yeah,
It
he
must have
probably
been.
won't at this point.
Yeah. Do you find that you just sort of accepted things the way they were? Were you wishing you'd have another mother, or wishing you'd have a stepmother, or did you just feel that you had enough older siblings that wasn't a longing you had?
It wasn't a longing I had, and I don't know, it's interesting. I never thought about that question before. But I don't know, I think if him and I were closer or had a better relationship, that's maybe something I would have wanted. I think I just like wanted my mom, like I think
Mhm.
for most of my life it was just like I've just like would want her. And so I think there's like no alternative to that. Like I don't think I could imagine my dad being with someone that it would feel like not like, of course, she would never be replaced, but someone who would like feel like a motherly figure outside of my family. Like, I just don't think that was ever something that crossed my mind. So I think I figured out like how to connect with my mom, like after
Mhm.
her passing and like really cultivate like that relationship with her. Um,
I love
uh,
that.
yeah.
And that you intuitively figured out how to do that on your own, and you found that spirituality, and she, it sounds like, imparted that into it for you and into your just way of thinking. And I know that that's something that more and more grief therapists encourage people to keep, that spiritual connection, or some kind of a connection where you feel you could still talk to them, or they're still a part of your life.
Yeah.
I love that you did that on your own. And now to jump into where you are today and what you're doing, because first of all, I love the fact that your last name is Nurse and you
Mhm.
are basically a nurse. But talk about what you are now, what you do and how you came to it, because I think it's very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so I am a birth and postpartum doula in the San Francisco Bay Area. Yeah, it's really interesting because it is very niche, and a lot of people who, when I tell them that's what I do, they're so curious of how I got into this work. But yeah, I mean, I think the idea and like the concept of mothering has just been something that being a mom, mothering and like caring has just been something that I've spent so much time thinking about. I think because of losing my mom and thinking about like what the kind of presence she had in my life, and then just like really wanting to be mothered and having so many sisters and, you know, seeing them being like motherly and nurturing, not only to me, but to their own kids that they started to have. I think I was like 16 when my first nephew was born and have just loved being a part of that and getting to know my nieces and nephews and like playing with them as babies. And I love being an auntie and just like really getting to know them and spending time with them and like earning their like love and yeah, just like trying to be in their lives. And that's been something that's really has been enriching for me since I was, you know, in high school and just really enjoy that. And yeah, just like my sisters love the support. So I've like spent a lot of time and like have kind of nannied or taken care of like a lot of my nieces and nephews and spent a lot of time like living with my siblings and their partners and their kids. So I've just spent a lot of time around like parents and families in that way as well. And I think when I was in college, like Instagram started to become more of a thing for me. And that really like opened up my world too of like people on the internet who were interested in similar things as me and like different like birth workers and, you know, like artists or you know, writers who were just like writing about these kinds of things. And I learned what a doula was and just loved watching like birth videos and just like reading about this work. And after I graduated, I decided that I wanted to do a doula training just to learn more about it because it feels so like shrouded in mystery in our culture. You know, like being a parent, but also like giving birth and pregnancy and all that stuff. Like it, you know, we have the movies where like they're screaming and then like the baby's born. And so I was like, I really wanted to like demystify that for myself.
Mm.
Yeah. And when I moved to San Francisco, I did a doula training and, um,
What is a
yeah,
doula exactly? What's the definition of a doula?
great question. So, I mean, there's like the traditional Greek word, but in the sense of like being a birth worker, it is caring for, especially being a birth doula, is like caring for, advocating physically, emotionally, providing information to people who are pregnant and their partners, and providing support before, during, and after birth. And, you know, postpartum doula is very similar, but more focused on, you know, the postpartum period after the baby arrives. So, I was primarily doing births initially. And so I would have like clients, I would meet with them prenatally, talk about their birth plan, talk about what they needed, what kind of emotional support they needed, if they had any like prior medical history or trauma, and try to just really bond with them like emotionally and become a person that they can trust. And when they're giving birth, I'm there to just support them in whatever they need. So it's not a medical role. It gets kind of confused with midwives, but it's a
Mhm.
non-medical role. And yeah, yeah, staying through the whole birth and then supporting once the baby is here and just like really supporting these parents as they like step through the crazy portal that is birth into parenthood and yeah, be with them on that journey.
Well, to me, standing back here and knowing you and listening to your whole story, it makes so much sense
Yeah.
that this has come full circle. And it seems to me as well that all the things you remember about your mother and the things she taught you and instilled in you have come back around to create, you've created this life for yourself that in a weird way honors her too. So,
Yeah.
I guess we're at the end of our time. We've actually gone a little over, and I'm so glad we talked a lot about everything. And I'm just wondering if there's anything, I know you're very spiritual and thoughtful, anything that you can share for someone listening just about life and your experiences. It doesn't have to be related to the blended families and all that necessarily, because you had your own sort of interesting, different kind of mothering through blended family. But anyway, yeah. Do you have anything that you might want to share?
Hmm. Let me think.
Just anything you've learned along the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I kind of touched on it, but I think like grief is such a universal experience, and I feel like I've felt grief in a lot of different ways in my life, like kind of through losing my mom and, kind of what happened subsequently afterwards with my dad um and I think it's something that we're really not prepared to handle in our culture, especially in the US. Like, it's something that we don't have a lot of tools for. And I don't know, I guess like I feel like I've learned like on my own like ways of like processing my grief and being with it. But I don't know, I guess like if there's like something I would share is to like really try to find like resources on um helping you to like move through grief. There's so many different ways of doing it. Like there's like grief counselors, there's like journaling, finding like some sort of like practice to help you through it. Because I think it can be such like a really like transformative emotion to feel and to like really work through. And I know that it's been like very transformative for me is to like work with grief and like be with grief, and like writing has been a really big thing for me. It's just like writing like to my mom and to my dad and to anyone in my life, and just writing to myself. And to just like try to find like support. And like I've had other experiences where like, you know, and also like, sorry, I'm going all over the place,
No, it's
but
okay.
doulas are people who help you through life transitions. Also, it's not just about birth. There's like death doulas and abortion doulas, and like there's even life doulas. So like trying to like get yourself the support that you need to like handle these transitions. I think we can like really be alone and like not know how to handle grief and move through that, and like finding your people and your support people to help you through that has been huge. And I'm just so grateful that I have that like naturally in my family, but I've also I think been able to find people outside of my family as well to like help me through that, and like that's been so huge, like therapy, for one. I don't know if that really, I feel like
No,
I just kind of said
yeah.
random things.
No, you didn't. It's all great wisdom. And I do
Yeah.
know just with anything in life, whether it's birth or going through a death or an illness
Yeah.
or happy things, weddings, whatever it is, you can't fully get there and have that empathy until you've gone through it. And once you've gone through it, you have endless
Yeah.
connection to people as they're going through things. And so, yes, finding people. I mean, where do you find a doula? Just curious. Just doula, go Google it.
Yeah, I would, yeah, Google it. For whatever kind of doula you're looking for, Google's like a great place to start with that. I mean, if you're looking for a birth doula, like if there's like a birth center or like a midwife group around, I feel like there's more resources out there than we realize. Like when I was at Cal Poly, I worked for Camp Kesem, which provides a summer camp for kids who have been affected by a parent's cancer. And it was like so cathartic for me to do that as an adult. And I was like, when I was a kid, this would have been so perfect for me. And like,
Yes.
I think it existed then. It wasn't something that like my family looked for to get that kind of support for us kids. But it's like, oftentimes it's out there because there's, we all experience these things, and, people want to support you.
Thank you for reminding me about Camp Kesem. It's
Yeah.
something that I've wanted to get involved. And I will say, you've got in our show notes, we'll have more information about you and where to connect if you're looking for a birth doula. And maybe you can even provide a little bit more information for us on other doulas that we could put in there and share. But
Yeah. definitely.
I want to thank you. It was brave of you to come on and talk so candidly about everything going on in your life and what you've experienced. And I just hope you have a life ahead of love and peace and everything you're looking for. And you give so much to other people. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Robin. It was so fun. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
you're welcome. All right. We'll see you soon.
Okay, bye.